What's the secret to bringing more money in to achieve high growth? No, not just setting New Year's goals or working on your positive affirmations. Today's topic is more technical and grounded on systems information that delivers realized growth no matter if you're mom and pop or a company with tons of employees. We're discussing tools to get you where you want to go, to grow quickly no matter what economic condition the world is in. It's about how to create lean methods in your business to better understand costing and estimating so you can know which customers and jobs to focus on that pay for profit. Our guest, Jeff Halonen, is filling in the gaps for us in this long-awaited episode. Get ready to level up your powder coater game. Welcome to the Powder Coater podcast. I'm your host, Kim Scott, and we talk about trending topics, interview influencers, and talk about things that are really important to the powder coating industry. So that's why my next guest, Jeff Halonen from Steelhead Technologies, is here to talk about that. And I'm happy to have him on the show. He's a busy guy. He's doing a lot of computer coding and computer work to automate the powder coating industry. So welcome, Jeff.
Hi, thank you, Kim. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So tell us, before we get started on answering the question below, which is, do you make money? And if not, what can you do about it? Tell us a little bit about, I guess, number one, why did you pick powder coating to automate powder coating in an application? And what's your background? How did you get started in that and all of that? So.
Sure. Yeah. So my background specifically is in mechanical engineering. I actually went to Michigan Tech. I live in Southeast Michigan currently. I actually worked at General Motors for 4 years right out of school. But then I had a buddy, Dean is his name. He's actually our current head of sales at Steelhead, and he's out of Minneapolis. And he called me and said, "Hey, we need to get into sales. Like, there's just so much excitement to be had in sales and engineering and bringing new products to market and things like that." So we started a technical sales company, and we were working in that role. And we bumped into a finishing shop. They were actually more of anodizing, things like that. And we started, and they said, "Hey, we've been looking for a system for years. We've tried every single demo we can. Nothing's built for us. So we're still using a creaky system out of the 90s and running our plant on paper. Customers will call us with simple questions like, where are our parts? And if you do locate them, well, now answer the question, when will they be done?" And they had 300 open work orders and 50 people and stuff like that. And they were extremely emphatic that there needed to be a solution built. And we had a community of software developers and software engineers that we worked with. So we co-founded Steelhead. There's actually 6 co-founders out of Michigan that specialized in software development, statistics, mechanical engineering, software engineering. And we really started building Steelhead to address this need. However, one of our first actual users was actually our second customer, which was a powder coating shop, a smaller shop, really close to our engineers. And they actually were professional acquaintances of our engineers. So that gave us a lot of benefit because we could create a product, create a technology, get someone using it in the real world, in this case, a powder coater, and get feedback from them almost immediately. So we were in their shop on a daily basis for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they started using it in production. So they had clipboards to start, and they'd hang the clipboards, and the position of the clipboard and the depth of the clipboard all had special meanings, and the colors and the highlighters and all of that. But even they weren't even that big of a shop. I think maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 head count shop, one shift, all batch manual powder coating. and they were already running into issues with communication, with inefficiency, with losing things. So it's per what we were talking before the show there, Kim, like about the size of shops that really see value from a streamlined system. It's not a 300 shop issue. It's not a 200 shop issue. It is an issue for them, but it becomes an issue really quickly once you go past one or two people where you can't just like yell across a room.
When you're starting to add more people, simple systems tend to kind of fall apart very quickly. You can create coded systems and stuff, but then you have this elaborate way to explain it to somebody so that they remember when it's easy maybe for you to remember it. But, some people are visual learners and some people are not visual learners, right? So, the question is how do you make money and then expand your simple systems into complex ones, using automation, using better systems, whether you're using, a complex, a program like Steelhead or any other system for that matter. I mean, we've had people on, coders on the show here where they have really navigated very, very well these systems, whether they're using automation or programs like Steelhead or similar programs, productivity programs. How do you make that jump? And when do you know you're making that jump? I mean, yes, we're talking about making money today. So, when you're losing money, right? But a lot of people, they understand that they could be making more money, but they also don't realize or have the awareness or the, that they're ready for something next level, right? How do you determine that or whatever,
Yeah, absolutely, Kim. I mean, there's, I think you could even start with the fundamental reason why grow at all, right? We have two people. Why hire a third? Why hire a fifth? Why hire a 10th? Why hire a 20th? Why hire a 30th? Why buy another oven? And generally, the answer is not just grow just to have more headaches. Generally, there's a reason, there's an attractive reason why we should be pursuing growth. And that can come through better offerings to our customers. Well, if we have a larger oven, we can do bigger parts. If we have more people, we can serve more customers. And that means our customers can get their parts faster. We don't have that 2-week turnaround. We can get that down to a 5-week turnaround because we have more capacity, so we can better serve our customers. However, or if we want to make more money, right? If we have a larger operation and we have the same amount of overhead management on the same amount of land and the same amount of costs, we increase our profitability with our scale. So there's a lot of compelling reasons to scale. However, if you're not methodical about your scale and you do not have systems that accommodate that growth, and you use the same systems that you had for 3 people or 5 people, all the way up to 50 or 150 or 80, you are going to be in some serious pain. And I guess that's the thing that we've seen really prevalent in the powder coating industry is that, and a lot of job shops actually is that growth happens organically over time. Bigger orders come. A customer started small and they kept on growing. And all of a sudden we're building whole new lines just for that one customer or whatever that growth story is, which is really exciting. And that's why powder coating is such an exciting business to be in. But what we've kind of seen is maybe the standard modus operandi is we scale until a point where it's like, that is so much pain. We're going to fix that right now. We're coming in on a Friday. We're not leaving until it's done. And the solution that's put in place is what we call point solution. So there's a specific piece of pain where our quoting has pain or our scheduling has pain. And we come up with a solution to fix just that problem. So to me, it's for example, scheduling, like in a powder coating shop, we've seen where, you're in the office and you create the schedule on the whiteboard, take a picture of it, go out in the plant and recreate it on a whiteboard, right? That's a solution. That works. That fixes a very specific problem, but it's completely detached from quoting and workflow and everything else like that. So that's really the mentality shift that I think is applicable to any size shop, is not being in the reactive mode where we have a very acute problem with something like inventory and we don't know how much powder we have. So we build an Excel sheet to track our inventory. That's a point solution. And going from that mentality to, I want a system to run my entire business on, because there's so much value to having all those systems interconnected and the flow from end to end. So it's really a proactive approach to scaling your business.
Yeah, and there really hasn't been a solution, very many solutions. Again, earlier we've had other people come on, have talked about what they've done thus far or what system they're using.
Mhm.
Um, and, some of them are more broad based where they're more industry broad, right? So they're not anything specific to powder coating. And, for whatever reason, and maybe it's just, it could be across many industries. Every industry has its niche or has its thing
Mhm.
they have to do. X plus, X plus Y equals Z kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
It seems, I'd like to think, or, I agree that powder coating is a slightly different methodology or, approach to doing jobs sometimes. Um, and, some of these broader based productivity applications don't always fit that bill.
Mhm.
So I guess on one hand, I want to hail you for, you know, when I first started seeing, your brand out there, and I'm like, oh, finally somebody
Mhm.
has something specific for powder coating, right? Where other companies, generational coders, from what I've read and researched in the marketplaces, they had to build their own
Mhm. Mhm.
unique program.
Yes.
And if it is with coding and up, if you're not keeping it fresh and updated, most business owners just want to buy it and be done with it and then never have to
Yes.
fiddle faddle with it again. But that's not how developers work. That's not how code works. That's not how it all works, right? You have to keep implementing updates and integrations and stuff like that. So, and of course, it's the upside or the downside to that is extreme money. You have to throw it out there.
Yeah, Kim, that's a great kind of back tie into we started telling the Steelhead story, and that's what really gave us a lot of energy to continue investing more and more and more into technology to serve this industry. Is our continual discovery of what we call existing solutions. So if you line up 100 powder coating shops and you walk into 100, I can give you a pretty good idea of what you're going to get when you walk through those doors. I have different guesses based on the size, a couple other attributes, but you're either going to have a generic software, off the shelf manufacturing ERP that's kind of force fitted into powder coating.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you what the pain's going to be. There's going to be Excel sheets. There's going to be all sorts of workarounds around it. We've seen it
Yeah.
just so many times. We also see, like you mentioned, people that build their own software. To me, that is a little bit of a cry for help because if you think about it, I'm a manufacturer. Like, what is my competitive advantage in the world? I run this shop. I keep the trains on time. I build equipment. I like writing software. That's a completely right. That's you got a cow in the backyard for your own milk, right? I mean, come on,
Right.
right? Like, is that really the business you should be in? But software is super. It's a unique business. It's a tremendous
Yeah.
upfront investment. You can put $1 million into a piece of software, and it can be almost unusable. That happens all the time. With cybersecurity, like you have to be constantly on top of your game. I mean, we've unfortunately talked to several job shops that have gotten bricked cybersecurity. They've gotten hacked, ransomware. Pay them $500,000, or you can't run your plant. So
Right.
it's not like you just built it and it's done, or your business changes. You add another line, you add e-coat and then powder coat, or you open another business. Now you have 2 locations. Well, how do you do that? How do you handle two
Yeah.
locations? Like, these are easy words to say, but tremendous engineering challenges.
Yeah.
And if you build your own software, you better be ready to keep paying year after year after year after year. And I hate to say it, but it's probably still going to be significantly below a solution that, like a company like Steelhead, like
You're
that's
not
all
going
we
to
do.
get what you really want out of
We
it,
have
right?
seven
Yeah.
engineers that do nothing but build like
Right.
the best platform in the world. And if you have one person building a solution that works just for you, like it'll build just for your plant. But um, there are some significant drawbacks to custom software. And then we also see paper and Excel based operations or kind of older softwares. So that's really
Yeah,
what's
and at
given us
that
a lot of
point, what's
excitement.
the point? Like, if I can't see it on a dashboard these days, like that's kind of what people are, they still have to, I don't know, me, I'm a dashboard kind of gal. I want to see it
Mm.
all on a dashboard. I don't, maybe some of the old school people that are used to seeing Excel spreadsheet can see that, read that data like it's nobody's business when you've been looking at it for years.
Mhm.
But, I think that the newer generational people or younger people want to see it in a dashboard. They don't want to have to do all that back hard work. And I was getting really good at it. I'm not very good with spreadsheets and formulas at all. I
Mm-hmm.
despise it. I'll run away from that. I'll build somebody else's Instagram before I,
Sure.
kind of thing. But you know, there is so much value in it if you can figure it out, and read it on top of that, or at least generate a story with the data that you want to see. That's the hardest thing. And if you can do that in a dashboard that is workable, then that's even better, because you've pulled the data that they really need to see when they need to see it. And I had a spreadsheet. This is back in 2018, 19, 17, 18, 19. I was really getting knee deep in my financials, trying to tease out that story of how well we were doing or where we needed to focus on or whatever. And it was cumbersome. I had to be dedicated every month to do it,
Mm-hmm.
to put the data in. And I had to do, because I wasn't good with formulas, I had to do all the calculating on my phone or on a calculator to see, okay, well, we had X number of jobs from this manufacturer that generated this much profitability, blah, 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 and it's cumbersome. Like,
Right.
even if you're dedicated to doing it, it's still cumbersome. And then never mind your other stuff like profit and loss statements and balance sheets and all the other QuickBooks stuff, right? Or accounting software stuff. So simplifying that is always a good thing to. Now you have an approach that is, in terms of onboarding your clients and stuff, where you realize you have to digitize everything. Can you speak about what digitizing means? Because a lot of people don't. That's a common word in your business, but not nobody really. I don't think that say a new customer coming in would understand what digitizing is. What you mean by that?
Sure. Yeah. And
Do you
can I
want to
share my?
share your slide? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me. Um,
And do you mind if I go between the slides and in the
Yeah,
software?
I've got it set up. If you hit present, does it give you like options? Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I haven't done this. I've shared my own slides on this software, but I haven't had other people be able to do it. So, and here I can turn this. Let's get that off so we can see the whole screen there.
Excellent. So yeah, the basic premise of digitize, automate, optimize is to build digital infrastructure for your business. And the outcome, you can't start at the end. You need to have the foundation before that. And really the beginning of the foundation is to digitize. And what it means to digitize, that means to take the existence of your plant, which means its current state, where parts are at. These parts are in blasting, these parts are in painting, these parts are in the oven. I have this many open orders. Here's my quotes, my inventory, my shipping, my receiving, my invoicing, capacity planning, scheduling. All of that is physically digitized in a single system. So that means we don't have information on whiteboards, we don't have information on Excel sheets, we don't have information in multiple softwares that are separate. We have it all, or on paper travelers. We have all the information in one single platform in real time. However, that is kind of just step one, because if you take all of your data and you make it digital, I mean, Kim, you were just saying how difficult it is to go through spreadsheets. So I could put all of your information in one big, huge spreadsheet, and it's like, well, there it is. It's digital. It's electronic. Make it now. It's so useful. That's actually not true, because you need to go another layer deeper, and you need to put automation on top of that. And automation can come in a lot of different ways. So here we see an operator that's using what we call a workboard. So it's an iPad bolted to an I-beam in a powder coating shop. And what they are doing is they're stepping parts through the production and automated workflow. So he starts working on, I believe he's painting here. So he'll take parts, he'll say they're ready to paint, boom, they're in paint. So tap, super simple. You can see pictures of the parts, everything like that. Train them in 15 minutes. So and now the parts are in paint, and then they go and do the paint, and they're done. They tap, tap, done. So that may not sound like traditional automation with like robots and everything, but a lot of things that have actually happened there automatically. First off, the fact that the parts were right in front of them and said, these are ready to paint. That was automatic because it could have gone to another oven, but we specifically routed it to that station. So it's automatic work instructions. They can click on pictures. They're told what to work on. They can deplete inventories. And they say we use 2 pounds of powder. Well, what did that do? That automatically depleted our inventory source. It automatically associated that inventory consumption with that job. If we step the parts, well, we are also automatically tracking the amount of time. We're tracking who did it. We're tracking margins. We're tracking a lot of that data automatically. And then as soon as I hit step, I will automatically notify the next person in the process, kind of like hot potato around the plant, hey, these parts are available. It will automatically update all of the dashboards throughout the plants. If a customer's on a customer portal, they can see that information. And then optimizing is kind of the end state. That is, we generate our schedules, we run our workflows, our quotes, our shippers, our invoices, everything through a single platform that digitizes and automates. So first, it makes it digital, so data exists in the first place. Our systems exist in the first place. Then we automate to save time, reduce errors, and then we optimize, which is focused on the really exciting growth part of the business.
Yeah, I have a hard time like with, some like just if you could take a set of rims, even, there's so much that can happen in a set of rims, right? There's stuff that you've got the general steps: strip, blast, powder coat, right? But in between all of that, there's taping. There's you got to take off the, if it's not dented, but if it's curbed or it's got some rash on there, you got to kind of grind it down. I mean, it's really kind of, some of it is intuitive. If you do it all day long, that's just the next step. But when you're constantly either running through employees or trying to retain employees and stuff like that, it can get kind of difficult because some of these little finer details get really sometimes just go out the window, and then all of a sudden now you got to redo, or because the guy didn't take out the curb, or aside from other catastrophes like painting it the wrong color, or some of the more obvious, like, oh, that's the wrong color, what do we do now? I mean, that's an obvious one, right? But you don't want to, I guess my point is, you don't want to wait until the customer goes, what's that? Or what, how come it's not what I wanted, to figure out, the other parts of the process did not come through, and I don't know if you can speak to that or not, or how that, because there's a chain reaction that goes on in the automation process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess what you're referring to specifically is workflow automation. So, tribal knowledge is one thing that's extremely difficult to scale when it's word of mouth or just in our minds. So, in Steelhead, if I may, like what we do is we build out specific processes. So if I pull up just an example process we have here, it has like the flow of what the parts are going through. They go through receiving, then the prep line, then the coating line, then quality inspection, unrack, shipping and invoicing. But what it's really about is building, and we talked about powder coating specific, and I could just build one live here.
Yeah, you don't realize, like, if that was a set of rims, you get the general stuff, but all the little stuff that that ended up being a huge process there.
Yeah,
the receiving,
absolutely.
the packaging, the all the other little things you don't think about, and that's where money can kind of slip through your fingers too.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you'd be surprised at how much cost there is. So that's what's really about the digitize, automate, optimize process is about, is building the workflow and the platform to mock up your exact plan. So let's say we receive, and then we go to what would be next? Blasting. Blasting.
Maybe if it's maybe, or stripping. If you have a strip tank or something, but yeah, we're just building it. So let's just figure we can just add
so there might be
anything we want.
a strip. But the nice thing about the strip is like, hey, we might not always do that strip. In fact, we only do it on occasion. So what we can do
Right.
is we can grab that strip node and we can say that's an opt-in node. So only certain things, like for example, wheels or dirty wheels or whatever it is,
Right. Oh,
um,
you can create your own
that
ones.
one's going to
Okay.
be
Tag.
opted in, right? So
Yeah.
only that part number will get that specific process, where the other ones, they all get that generic process. So it's really
That's
about,
clever. I love that. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you, Kim. It's really about building specific workflows for your specific plan. So the
Right.
outcome is that we have an interface or work boards that the team is able to use. So if I'm a new operator and I'm grinding these parts, I'm able to access work instructions and photos of the parts, and different instructions on how to process the part. I always have some silly instructions there, but it really takes the time that's a training time that's required, and really minimizes it for new employees.
I think that's great because, maybe doing rims is a simple job, but then maybe you've got something like complex as that picture shows, where
Mm,
you really got to be detailed. They want it a little bit. And how do you, I mean, we're always praising these custom coders on a show here because of the agility that they have
hmm
to switch in from architectural paint coating to something automotive, which requires a different type of mindset. It's you're all over. You can, if you're not organized, you can literally be all over the place, and that leads to inconsistencies in your finish work. And this is what makes it so um, ideal, especially for people that have I'm guilty of those people that multitask too much and I'm
mm,
all over the place. I get
hmm
it done, but like
Sure. Yeah.
I got like 15, tabs open on my computer, before I'm not a linear thinker at
Sure.
all,
Sure.
and so I could see where this helps linear thinking people, but but it also can help the visual people with the interface and stuff like that. I think that's what you need sometimes in a powder coating job shop. You need to be able to think both ways.
hmm
I think both. Speaking for Maui Powder Works, it seems like whatever Ross is good at, I'm not good at. Like
Sure.
we just have that component of a mom and pop shop that I seem to kind of fit in there where he doesn't have that or whatever, right? So
hmm
we tend to be a pretty good team in terms of making sure that the customer is happy. I mean, always that's on our mind, right? Making the customer happy. That's on the forefront. You might want to add that in your tree, right? Make your
Right.
customer happy.
Yeah.
um, Somehow we navigate to that finished goal, right? Of
hmm
whatever that is. We were in a situation the other day, and sometimes you get customers that are like this, and maybe we can kind of talk about customers for a minute because
hmm
so we had this, some people do have, I don't want to say mental issues, but
Oh.
some people think their reality is a little slightly different than what really took place. And I thankfully at Maui Powder Works we don't have a lot of those, but we've learned to identify them very early on. And when we do, the alarm bells go off, and sometimes you're better off not even having them because you almost can't, no matter how far you can bend backwards or redo a part or be as nice or be as gruff as you want to be, you're never going to be able to satisfy them. And
mm
it's just something with them, not you or your processes. So for instance, we had a guy who has those cable railings, they're really popular right now,
Okay.
and they'll get built and then you run the cable through them.
Sure.
So it looks like strings. So we had a guy come in. He was already kind of in a bad mood because him and the welder didn't get along well, which I can't imagine because this guy is the nicest guy and he does quality
Right.
work. So we kind of knew something was up with that just from the get go, because
Hmm.
who talks bad about this guy, right?
Right.
Um, anyways, he's trying to match the color wise. He's trying to match the door, and sometimes in powder coating, you can get it a visual match as close as you can, but it takes a really it takes someone that knows a lot about color and powder
Hmm.
to even try to attempt to achieve that, because most people will just go, no, I can't match that because it's an anodized door or something like that, and there's just
Hmm.
it's almost impossible to match a aluminum anodized look,
Right.
and but we tried and we made samples all along, stair stepping him away. First, we've
Hmm.
kind of pushed him away and told him, no, we're not going to do this job. We don't want to do this job. We're not interested. And then he's like, well, why don't you? Now he's curious, right? So now he's being nice to us. And now we're doing samples for him.
Sure.
And we get it to a point where he has accepted the sample because he's gone back and forth to his house and he realizes, okay, this is the close I'm going to be able to get it.
Uh-huh.
And then he goes, okay, comes down. I'm going to go on vacation. So I've approved this sample. Um, so when I get back, I'll come and pick up my stuff and everything will be hunky dory. And so we do that. It
Hmm.
sat here for a couple weeks till he got back. He comes and picks it up, pays for it, gets it home and says, this isn't what I wanted. And I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
Ross is about ready to like wring his neck, like we've done everything possible.
Sure.
We've stair stepped him, baby stepped him to where he
Hmm.
was going to be. And now he has forgotten what he said. And of course, he's looking at his texting to us and I'm like, no, there was no text. I probably should have,
Yeah.
hindsight, right? But you came into the shop and you told us, okay, this is the final sample. And so we proceeded from there. I said, I wouldn't have ordered the powder because
Hmm.
we didn't have enough. We had enough powder to do the sample, but we needed more powder to finish the job. I
Hmm.
said, Robert, how could we have even, how could I had to order more powder to even get this job done. So you had to have approved this, because he was denying that he approved the sample, even though he
He
did.
dropped off his parts without.
Yeah,
Did you
he
ask him
did
why he dropped
all
off
of
his
these
parts?
things, but ignored, but now is telling me that he did not
Yeah.
approve the sample. And I'm like, okay, none of these things would have taken place
Yeah.
if you hadn't, why
Including
would
him dropping off his parts, right? I
yeah,
mean,
so
why
like
would he drop off his parts if he didn't approve it?
nothing was logical. And of course, now he's looking at his phone as a defense mechanism, and ignoring, I said, no, you look at me in the face. You look at me, right? I'm talking to him like he's a 2-year old,
Mm.
and I'm like, no, look at me when I'm talking to you and at least give me the respect that
Hmm.
I deserve for trying to make this a project that is, that you're happy with,
Hmm.
and I don't know if it's just that, I have a background in hospitality and I live in Hawaii, and that's, our whole world revolves around customer service here in
Mm.
Hawaii. It's just kind of our nature here. So most guys would just go, you know, out of here, see you later, bye-bye, you know,
Mm.
but, I guess I have to take it to that next level, you know? So now we've got it to a point where it's like, okay, can you just give me black now? And I promise I won't make any, because now, you're worried, is the guy gonna cancel his check if I try to deposit it? Is he gonna rate me up on Google? And,
Sure.
all this stuff, that goes on in the back of your head, right? And anyways, this is a long story to tell you that even though you can have processes in place, sometimes the right customer or the wrong customer comes in, uh, and it can all go sideways. So having this step by step, involvement here where you've crossed that T and dotted that I with a system like this knows that you've done everything. Now,
Hmm.
people that have certifications like ISO 9000, and
Hmm.
the PCI one and stuff like that, they've that's part of what that is. But, if you're just trying to make your own standard here in your own shop work, this helps establish your own personal, I guess, certification level
Hmm.
for your own company, by doing these steps, because you can't go with a he said, she said, you know,
Yep.
that
Yeah,
never works.
absolutely. Yeah, no, that dynamic that you've described obviously is a bit of human nature, right? It's not just Robert, right?
Yeah.
It's also employee to employee, husband to wife, friends. It happens at all the times, and even with, especially with customers, and certainly within the own plant. So yeah, if everyone's, and a lot of it has to do with verbal, right? Because there's tone. There's, I said I was thinking about it. Not I did, like, well,
Yes.
you know what?
Yeah.
If you have it in a system, and it's like, I have issued a purchase order, or here's a shipper, or
Right.
here's the next step, or I've completed them, or I've used 2 pounds of powder. Like, you either did or you didn't, right? So it's,
Right.
I think, that's kind of really digging into a very human level about why a lack of systems can fall apart. Not that you need to set up
Yeah.
a system with that exact customer, but like systems with humans in general. So I think that really underscores the need for systems, even with two people involved, right? Is you and one guy, and
It
still
could be me and
it fell
Ross
apart.
arguing about what was he said, she said.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be with a customer. It can happen between in your own company, right?
Hmm.
That's just another layer to it, right? Um, and that, not to jump around on your slides and stuff, but in continuing with that on this customer level thing, I have a friend of mine who's actually been on the show, and we were having we were just having a regular conversation. We're like, wow, this would be a great topic for a podcast. And
Hmm.
what we were talking about, because he has automated, he doesn't use your system, but he has an automated system or productivity system. And
Hmm.
it's been a game changer for him in the last year that he's had it, for sure. I mean, he's now projected to do even more money this year because he has automated
Yeah.
himself, where he's starting to really dive deep with that data. Um, and what he's come to understand, and this was the premise of him coming back on the show, was that there are customers that he has that maybe the margins are a little lower because
Hmm.
you're doing, like he's doing a small little ped gate for $38 in black all day long, all day
Sure.
long, all day long. You alluded this earlier in the webinar I attended earlier this morning, which was, you know, you've got these some of the jobs have thinner margins, and then you've got other customers that maybe you're charging top dollar for them, but they are such a headache to deal with.
Hmm.
They never bring in the volumes or bring things on time. So now you're having to put them in the back of the bus, and wait for the next. Then they get mad because you had to do that because you had all these other jobs come in ahead of them or come in on time. You know, how do you can really kind of start to see with data like this which customers are the ones you want to keep, even if they've got thinner margins. They don't give you any headaches. That you could do them all day long, and they're nice little
Yeah.
fillers for other job in between other jobs.
Yeah,
Do you
Kim,
have
that's
you had any customer businesses like that happen?
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that dynamic that you've described, that's a very specific decision that you might make, but it's there are hundreds or thousands of those kinds of decisions that you can make on a daily basis or weekly basis, sometimes even hourly basis, how you run your plant. And it's really about having the data, because especially when you get at scale, right? If you're small enough, you kind of have it in your head. But if you
Mm-hmm.
get to a larger extent, or if you go on vacation for a week, or if you have another shift, or you don't work every single day and you're not literally watching the work be done, reporting and having analytics on that is how you can be instructive on, well, are they a good customer? Do they deserve a lower price? Or is that priced appropriately? Like, if we're tracking rework, this is just rework by week, but perhaps we're tracking rework by part number. what if that part just inherently causes a lot of rework? Our process is dialed. We can't fix it. The parts might come in poor condition. They might come in dirty, whatever the case may be. Like that part may inherently have more rework. So now we need to increase that cost. So, or like how much business does that customer send us? So if we're tracking, revenue per customer over the last 60 days or something like that, we're like, well, they're asking for a big ask. Well, let's go check. Well, oops, they're paying the bills. So we better do that. Or
Right.
these guys are all talk and they're constantly talking to us. Or operator training, so it's or tracking rework. So whatever that information is that we're looking to run our business off of, it's the first step is having the data, because like you said, Kim, like, hey, this is a great customer. We know that because the margins are at an acceptable level versus the amount of work it takes to execute their work, or they're really consistent, they're on time, whatever the case may be. Whether it's dealing with a customer, an operator, equipment, do we offer this certain process anymore, this certain finish anymore? Those are decisions that you can make without data, but really when you're armed with the data, sometimes the decisions are self-evident, and the decisions can become quite easy because the data really tells the story.
Yeah, and I think when we know we've lost a job or lost on a job or whatever, I mean, we feel it in the gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, uh, what if you could just look at the data and feel more objective about it? Sometimes there's better, obviously there's better decision making that comes with it. And maybe I'm the one that's more subjective about it. Ross knows when to tell somebody to go to the curb,
Sure.
right? But I'm always the mommy and want to like, oh no, it's okay, come back. It's not as bad as it. Like I don't know why I do that. It's just my nature, I suppose. But if I could see something like that, go, hell yeah, he needs to go away, go away. you know, um, you don't feel bad about it. I think there's a lot of, because this is such a humbling, or the custom coders are humble guys to begin with. They
Mm-hmm.
really take pride in their work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they Because of the precision and perfection of coding in and of itself, it prides itself, and it's a forward thing. It's a forward movement when you're
Mm-hmm.
producing perfect parts all the time, right?
Yes.
And there's a pride involved. There's reputation involved too,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you don't have to always. You'll either be able to get it in your gut and know it on paper and see it on a screen and go, yep, I was right,
Mm-hmm.
or you get to that point of frustration where you can just say, you know what, I don't deserve this for myself. Right?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
deserve better. um, and stuff. And that's where I think data can really, knowing your money and how you're making it, and stuff, can really simplify those deeper, mushier feelings. you know
Yeah. Yeah, Kim, no, it's a great point, because every customer you take care of, sometimes they're like I'm a father myself, right? They're like children, or friends or family, or the neighbor's got a flat tire, and you just want to help them. It is human nature, but um, it is important at the same time to hold yourself accountable on that, and make sure it's um, the numbers are lining up, make sure it's actually worth it, because while it's like, well, I'm running a profitable business, I'm just greedy, I just want more money. I mean,
right.
maybe for some folks, but for a lot of folks, it's not even that. Like, why we come to work every day, it's, I
Right.
believe in this business, I want to serve the community, I want to, oh, look, these employees that I provide employment to, like,
Yeah.
or look at the suppliers, I just ordered in a new oven, and that guy down the street came and built it for me, and I helped them. So it's profit is not a bad thing, right? So I guess if we're running our plant um, down here, and we're running jobs that are actually losing money, it may seem like, oh, just a great thing. We're the Salvation Army. We're just turning out good for the world, but not necessarily, because they're dealing. Your business is not going to grow. You're not going to be able to provide maybe healthcare to your employees, or a Christmas bonus or anything like that, or you're not going to be able to invest in your own equipment. And then honestly, their levels of service aren't going to be as high because you can't make the investments in systems and equipment. So in the long run, for the customer, like, oh, I'm getting a good deal because you're losing money on my parts. Like, yeah, but that's short term, right? Because you are losing money. Eventually, you run
Right.
out and you might go out of business.
You won't
And
be
now
the
they
person
now
to
have
do
no one
it
to do their
anymore.
parts. You don't have anyone
Exactly.
left, right? So it doesn't help
Yeah.
the customer. It helps them in the short run. They get a little deal, but it doesn't help the business owner. It doesn't help the employees. Doesn't help the community. And it doesn't even help the customer in the long run because the shop has to go out of business because you lost money. So it's
Yeah. Where would they be?
but
Yeah.
once you're making profit, now you have all the touchy feelies. I would say you have the privilege of being touchy feely. If you're losing money, eh, you don't really have that privilege, right? Because it's
Right.
an existential crisis. Like we need to
Yeah.
survive. We need this business to prosper, and then now we can work on our culture and who we are as a business and who we help. But we're doing it from a position of positivity and strength, and we have a foundation to build off of. So it's almost like building the foundation and then building our business brand and culture and what we bring to the world on top of that, on top of solid business fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, I was on Facebook the other day. Somebody posted in one of the groups, that his system was, he's selling all of his equipment, and
Oh,
it didn't say he was getting out of business. He just said all my stuff's for sale, blah blah blah. Message me,
mm-hmm.
and I'm like, well, why are you selling? He goes, that's none of your business. That's
No.
like, I'm like, well, okay, are you upgrading? Are you did you run yourself out of business? Did you make some
Yeah.
poor choices? Are you getting a divorce? Does your wife hate you, because
No.
you're in powder coating? You don't want your wife to hate you because you're in powder coating,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I love this slide. It really said a lot to me. I know hopefully it's not too hard to read on the screen when we put it up, but I mean, just the graphs alone, why don't you just go ahead and kind of explain a little bit, because the bell curve at the top there is, oh yeah, you can zoom in. That's cool.
Is that better?
It's back to the home screen. There you go. Yeah. But it's big enough. I think people can see it.
Okay.
And for
I'll
those that are
zoom
listening, we'll just kind of visually explain, what we're seeing on these graphs, right? I
Yeah.
like that you call it naive quoting.
Yeah. So it's naive is a little bit of a technical term, but yeah. So basically, what we're trying to convey here is kind of the logical flow of what happens from a quote to you actually run the job, because a couple different things happen. So if we're quoting in a naive fashion or an uninformed fashion or a very subjective fashion, we may, the quote on Monday might be different than the quote on Tuesday. And then the next Monday, it's
Yeah.
actually a different number again, because the same facts are getting a different quote each time. We have a lot of subjectivity and we have some randomness. So we can represent that with a curve. And if we have a high degree of randomness, that curve is going to be pretty flat, meaning there's going to be a lot of variation in our quoting. It's not going to be very tight and precise. And so if we send out 100 quotes out into the world, we are going to have a lot around the optimal price, assuming we're guessing pretty close because we have a pretty good gut. And that's fine. And really what this means is, and what some people say is, I'm right on average. And what
Mm-hmm.
we really want to emphasize is that's not good enough, because if you're right on average, you're right here. That means you are lined up on the optimal price, which is fine. But if you have jobs that are too high and too low surrounding that average,
Mm-hmm.
you can pay the price there. So because the customers, they're not just going to accept your quotes in the same distribution that you sent them out. If you send out a quote here and you send out a job there, you're probably going to win that job and you're going to lose that job. So the customers don't agree with your quotes all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
if you shoot high, you lost a job. If you shoot low, you won the job, but you're barely making any money or you're not making money at all. So it's
Yeah.
really the fact that the customers are involved in this decision price, because ultimately what you're doing is you're working with customers to decide, what does this job cost or what is it worth? And they're involved in that decision. Like, you can't just tell them what it's worth. Otherwise, we'd be in a different situation, right? So they have to be involved, and they always like the low price. So if you're not careful about how wildly distributed your quotes are, you're going to end up with a lot of jobs that are winners for you. You won the job, but they're actually losers because you're losing money on them, or you're barely making money, and they're not contributing to the growth of your business, the growth of your business community, the growth of what you can provide to your customers.
Yeah, it's putting a drag on it, when
Yeah.
you could be accelerating so much further, And the thing is I'm a suck I'm a stickler for details, right? I
Mm.
almost kind of get like, I want to know, even like personal stuff, sometimes I'm making a joke, but like, when somebody calls in and needs a quote and stuff, I try to be as thorough as possible and ask as many questions as I can,
Mm-hmm.
because the more I understand their motivations for calling me in the first place, or I can maybe get an indication based on the way they're talking to me, how much money they have for this project, or how desperate they are. Like, we just, while we've been podcasting here, we got a delivery on a job from a
Mm.
major contractor. I'm not sure what's happened or gone on with the customer, but either it was a punch list item that either didn't get done or got done poorly, and now it's become urgent. I mean,
Mm.
beyond urgent. Like, oh my God, maybe they don't get paid. That's you understanding contractors and stuff when they working with deadlines and everything. Like, when they don't make that deadline, money comes out of their pocket, on a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their contracts. And so, having and being able to turn something around quickly, helps them satisfy that as best as possible, as best they can,
Right.
um, and so I'm a stickler, or I encourage everybody listening to ask as many questions as you can, because the more you ask about the project and what is at hand, or when their deadline is, or it really kind of can give you some insights how they answer, what they answer, to where you can help price better, or know, oh, I can get a little bit more from him because he needs it like by Monday, or,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing, so that maybe you can kind of fill yourself into that better part of the graph, right, of this bell curve,
Right. Yeah, I like that comment, Kim. And what your comment is look for positive opportunities. Hey, they sound like they're really urgent. Well, I can serve them. I can provide value to them. It's obviously coming at a cost. I'm displacing other work. I'm coming in.
Right.
I'm not sleeping tonight. Whatever the case may be. So that's searching for those positive opportunities when you're quoting. And that's really important. But I'd say the other part is having your hard stops, like having a no-go zone, and
Right.
having that no-go zone built off of facts and analytics and information and data that you've run it. Oh, I've done that before. Believe me, I've done that turnaround time for that price. I can't make money, guaranteed not. The overtime's not worth it. I have to pay, and it's just like, I don't care how hard they're asking. And that's when you have the data and you have the processes, and they are all excited and they're ranting and raving, and you just say, no, I can't do that job at that price. I just can't, or I can't hit that turnaround time. So I think it's a combination of what you said, which is like looking for those positive opportunities, but then also where are the
The
potholes?
hard
We have
stops for
the
you.
hard
Yeah.
stops. We have a hard stop
Yeah.
there. We have a hard stop there, and we're not going there. I don't care how hard you yell. Like, I'm just not in that business unless you're doing like a intro project or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, this is a great slide to think about, and even those that are listening, I think they can kind of grasp, what we're talking about here, even without these graphs. But you're always wanting to know where you are, like where, you are here on the map, right? So
Yes.
where can you go next, or where can you just inch it a little bit further, better for yourself? And I think that we're, again, one of the great things about what you've done here with your product is, knowing that the trends in powder coating are only going to grow from here. We're in a high growth industry right now. As long as the Fed doesn't kill it all, but you know, um, uh, I'm happy to be in manufacturing in a marketplace that is for paint coatings that are low VOC, good for good for the
Mm-hmm.
people, and less intrusive, so that we can grow and grow quickly, because people are going to need this software soon enough if they keep growing,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe helping them with less headaches, right? And pain points. You're either a painkiller or, you're the vitamin, right? So
Right.
I think you definitely have a painkiller here, which is what everybody needs, especially when they're hurting or need to grow quickly. As
Yeah.
a lot of these companies, they grow so fast.
Mm-hmm.
They need stuff like this.
Yeah, no, Kim, you're spot on with the industry, and I don't want to dovetail into lead times because that's a kind of a separate topic. But I do just want to point to this, a survey we ran at FabTech just real quickly. You mentioned the powder coating industry is growing, absolutely, but also there's still a lot of powder coating that's done in-house. So these particular fabricators, about 60 that we interviewed down in Atlanta, 67% said that yes, we actually do it in-house. So that's obviously John Deere and Caterpillar and all these big manufacturers, but even some of these mom and pop, 100
Oh,
head
these
count,
fabbers do
200
it.
head,
Yeah.
they do it all the time.
Hmm.
And so for job shop powder coating shops, like that's an opportunity because they don't necessarily want to do powder coating. They're doing it because they have to, because there's not a job shop available for them to use. But just at a general level, um, in my opinion, whenever a manufacturer who's building products and engineering and designing, when they have an opportunity to outsource something, they will want to do that. It makes their life way easier. So I just want to share that as well from
Yeah,
a
no, it's a
growth
good point.
perspective. It's like it's
Hmm.
not just you and the other powder coater in this county. It's all of your customers. You're actually competing with your own customers because if you do a good enough job, they're like, you know what? Oh, you cut my side yard. Why don't you cut my front yard too? And eventually, they don't even know mower anymore, right? Because you do such a
Right.
good job. Like they just had you come and mow the lawn when you're on vacation, when they're on vacation, and eventually, you're putting in the garden,
Yep.
you're doing it all, right? So it's just kind of getting more and more. So there's unlimited opportunity in powder coating. Is what I believe.
Yeah, I think it takes someone. Well, let's just say this. If you're a manufacturer that's outsourcing powder coating and having a bad experience, big enough and important enough to take it in-house and then have to learn that new
Mm-hmm.
trade, that,
Mm-hmm.
powder coating is not easy to learn.
No.
That says a lot about our industry too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That maybe it, because we didn't have the software, right, or the processes in place, or the systems in place to give them what they needed, then they maybe not doing their job, or could be doing a better job. I know there is a lot of crossover between welders and powder coaters.
Sure.
Sometimes, even we're looking at a crossover service or an additional service that's related to coating, but not, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not welding or anything, but it's, we're looking at wearing many hats just because we see other opportunities, elsewhere too. Um, so, but when you do that, you want to look for something that's easy, not hard to get into. So,
Right.
when you've got a statistic like that, that's a pretty big one. And how you're not necessarily competing with them because they have it in house, but that leads the rest of the people that aren't using these people to get their stuff done through you too. So it actually
Mm-hmm.
opens up more market share. I think market share is going to continue to grow though,
Mm-hmm.
either way,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So wait, there's some more stuff we want to talk about. You had a slide. I have a note here. You have a slide that is talking about a closed system, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, because it's like, well, what is a healthy lead, right? And your closed system kind of puts everything into perspective here on the process, or the thought process of what you should be thinking about, whether you have a system like yours or not.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you take us through this slide? Because I think it's a really important one that we're always trying to hone in here on our show, because it
Sure.
talks about, your, how much does it cost to make you money, right? You've got
Mm-hmm.
your overhead that what is it? And, if you don't know what that is, then how do you know you're making money, right? So that's the bottom line of today's show.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to run through it, and maybe I'll over narrate a little bit for the audio only listeners here, but for those viewing, you can kind of follow along with my mouse here, and basically a closed loop system in its most generic definition means that it comes back to the beginning again, whereas an open system, it comes in one end and it goes out the other, and it's gone forever. It never comes back to the beginning. So the system that we are focusing on in this particular slide, and is because there's many other ones. You could talk about quality, we could talk about other closed loop systems, but this is one example. This one is the system of generating prices. And again, a price is something you and the customer agree on a price, and you execute the work at that price. So when you first generate a price, you have to take into account a lot of factors. I didn't put the craziness of the customer on here, Tim, but maybe we'd add that to your matrix there. But we're looking at things like labor rates, powder cost, tooling, utilities. Maybe we have to pay expedite fees on that powder to get it here soon to hit the lead time, masking, plugs, packaging, our desired profit margin, so we can run a healthy business. So these are, I would say, the analytical or the calculated or theoretical drivers that generate a price. So in theory, this part should cost us $73 to run and 88 cents. Well, that's great. And we generate a quote and we send it, and then we receive a purchase order. We win the job, and then next we run that job. And that is where a lot of people will just run the job and then take the payment and just be done. And if they get the job again, well, it just goes back in the same open system, and then it comes through again, and then they send it back to the customer, get payment, and then they're done. But there's a tremendous amount of value left on the table from an information or a data standpoint, because if you complete the job, and instead of just sending the parts to the customer and collecting the payment and then just being done until they send it back again, if we analyze the performance of that job, of that part number, of that customer, ideally every job, we can answer questions in an automated format like, did we make money? Did we run this job as well as last time? So if we ran this job 5 times, how did we do versus the last 5 times we run it? Or something like wheels, where we don't get the exact same wheel every time. Well, that's fine, but that was a truck wheel versus a car wheel. How are our margins looking on truck wheels? And is this in alignment with our truck wheel? So we can use generalizations if it's not like an OEM part number, were our costs estimated correctly? We estimated XYZ cost drivers. Is that what it actually was, or was it above or below? So are we doing a good job of estimating our powder? Are we doing a good job of estimating our blasting labor? How does lot size impact performance? If it's a scenario where the customer sometimes sends 5 parts and sometimes sends 50, do we understand how much of an impact that has when that goes all over the place? Because we might be putting half the amount of parts in the oven and running it for the same period of time, and that's driving our cost. And the key is to take that information and drive it back into the beginning. So that way, when we're generating a price, or the customer comes back to us and says, hey, you did great work, we want to do it again, we'll say, okay, give us a minute. We'll take a look. We'll say, well, that price isn't $78. It's actually $92. Or, you know what, we actually overpriced it. It's actually $64. But regardless of what we do in that situation, we are informed and we have the facts, and whatever path we choose, like, hey, we still have a healthy margin at 64. We want this customer. So we don't want to keep charging, because eventually they're going to get another quote. We're going to lose that customer. So we have the ability to make that decision. So if we don't have a closed loop system where we run a job and we get information about how we did on that job, they want to quote again, and we'll say, well, they came back for more. Well, it must be good. Let's just do it again. Where we actually don't know if we lost money or if we're overpriced. But we just said, well, they paid us last time, so we'll just do it again at the same price. It's kind of taking a step level higher, and really what that does is it builds an intellectual flywheel for your business, because instead of just coming in every single day and just working as hard as you can and going home and then coming in and doing it again, we're actually getting better every single day, because we're learning every day and we're getting better at quoting. We're getting better at, so every day we come in and we actually do more than we did before for the same amount of effort, because we're getting better and we're getting more efficient. We're getting smarter. The old working smarter, work not harder adage. So it's creating a flywheel in the background of your business of almost like intellectual property, as you really understand your business and your customers and your cost structures. at a very intimate level. It allows you to do more, be more productive with less resources over time.
Yeah, and you had an example earlier this morning about the guy. I guess he realized that they weren't dropping parts off as many as they could, and somehow they figured out in using your system that if they just could bring the more parts at the time that they were supposed to, they could have, you know what I mean? And I couldn't remember if it just, it was the way you explained it was either the customer won out on a better price because they all, oh yeah, and we can bring you more stuff. Or
Yeah.
if it was on the back end, the guy ended up making better margins because all he had to do was ask. How simple was that?
No, Kim, you're right. That's exactly what it was. Is the first one that you mentioned. So they received orders. Well, they did these parts for this customer all day long, all month long. But the quantities that they received the parts were all over the place. It'd be low numbers, high numbers, and they finally went back to this customer and said, "Hey, if you guys send them to us in less than 50, we actually can't do it at the price you're paying. AKA, if you send them in batches of 10, we're going to stick you like pretty hard on the cost because of XYZ reasons, because we have the data right here.
Right.
But if you guys send them in 50 or above, you guys will get that same nice low price." Like, and they did this to like a Fortune 100 manufacturer, like kind of like a little bit intimidating. Like, you better be right if you're going to go in there and make that ask, because they might say, well, we want to send them to you at batches of 5 at that price, and we're ready to go on the street, but you have to be ready for that to happen and comfortable with that because you understand your numbers. In this particular case, that manufacturer said, or that customer said, okay, no problem. We'll get you those higher volumes, those higher batch sizes to help manage your costs, because we want that same low cost. So a slight adjustment the customer had to make, but it's really just a great, simple example of what happens when you have the data and the information to back whatever you're going to ask for. Otherwise, you're just kind of going in and asking, and then they ask why, and or maybe you don't ask ever because you're kind of scared, or
right.
But when you have the facts and you know where you're at as a business, you can just you're okay with the outcome no matter what happens. You say, this is what we have to do for our business, and you the customer can make the decision that's appropriate for you, but this is where we're going as a business.
Yeah, and the other side to that too is, if you have this, 1 month you're sending them a bill for this X number of dollars, and then it goes down, and then it goes sky high again the next month because of the way they're delivering the parts to you, right? It can, if you're, especially when you're dealing with like super big companies, those accountants and their companies are looking for inconsistencies in billing because they don't want to be taken advantage of, right? So it could lead to a delay in payment. It could lead to, because they're like red flagging everything you're sending them. And then they're not paying you on time, or at least within the 45, whatever the agreement is and stuff like that. That could, on the customer side, could lead to all kinds of other problems for you, when it could just be simply showing up and being intelligent and saying, look, this is what's going on, right? This has been fabulous, Jeff. You and I have met briefly. Here and there, powder coating week and stuff like that. And I met your brother Dean too, because he reached out to us. And I really have, I just want to tell you that I have learned an appreciation for you and the level of knowledge that you have about systems and systems building. It's incredible. So thank you for being so good.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. Yeah, we have a very passionate team. I'm just I do a lot of the talking and presenting and all that, but we have quite a few engineers in the backside, and the deployment engineers and the sales team that work with customers on an everyday basis, solving their problems, configuring accounts to their specific needs, custom automation, building new features, new tools. So the knowledge is gained through service to our customers. We help we're a very customer focused entity, very focused customer focused company, and we're just a sponge, and we just try to absorb problems that customers bring to us and then solve them the best way that we possibly can. So we learn a bit along the way in doing that. So, but no, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kim. It's a pleasure to see you in Florida a month or so ago here.
Yeah.
We're almost getting some summer weather in Michigan. I think it's officially spring now, so that means just a little bit more snow. But yeah, we're excited for some warmer weather here. And yeah, no, it's been a fantastic podcast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Do you ever see, I mean, just real quick though,
Mhm.
on a level of like where a shop, is it a monetary thing? I mean, I know you're at that point where it's like a pain
Mm,
point for you, then you're
mm.
ready for that technology. But like, is there some level, or do you ever see yourself building a product that is sort of a scalable one so that, because I'm thinking, yeah, I could use this system on some level. I don't know if I could need all the bells and whistles that,
Mhm.
for our small size. I mean, you can see pretty much what I'm dealing with here in the background, but like it's still nice to be digitally coherent, you know, and um, and then have something that can scale along with me too, as we grow together.
Sure.
But I don't know. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, no, Kim, it's a great question. So, I mean, our smallest customer has, I believe, three people, three to five, and then all the way up to the mid 100s. And obviously, it's different challenges all along the way. But the thing that I think people underestimate, even given a smaller scale, 8 to 10, is the value of their own time.
Hmm.
It's a very common mentality, even as an individual. Like, well, my car's broken and it's going to take the brakes. I need to get the brakes done, so I'm just going to do it in the driveway, in the gravel driveway with my jack. And it's raining. I've done this. Headlight, 35 degrees, torque wrench, rusty bolts. I'm in a gravel driveway and I'm changing whatever, the half shaft, the bearing. I've did that for many years. I no longer do that. I take it to the pros, the auto shops. They got the nice tools. They got the air wrenches. They got the heat, the AC. But to me, that mentality shifts not just like I'm tired of bloody knuckles. It's like, you know what? I can do a lot with my time. I can work on my business. I can work with my family. I have my priorities. And that's one thing I think that smaller shops tend to underrate is they're like, you know
Yeah,
what?
you're
Wheel
so
bearings, no
right.
problem. I can do wheel bearings. No, I'll do that wheel bearing. Swap a muffler, I can do that. I'm going to go buy a welder from Harbor Freight. I'm going to do that. So there's a little bit of a false economy, in my opinion, where it's like we can just kind of DIY it to the nth degree and just avoid spending capital, because it is a little bit of a different mentality to say, hey, we're going to make an investment, but that investment has a clear ROI. We're not just doing it just for fun, but we're also we're seeing the fact that, hey, this is going to, me, Kim, I'm going to, or whoever it is that's doing these activities, I'm going to save 10 hours a week. And not saying, well, that 10 hours a week is worth $0. It's like, no. That 10 hours a week is worth a tremendous amount, because look at all this extra work we can do. So to me, it's a two-sided equation that needs to be happening whenever you're looking to make an investment. It's like, yes, there's that cost, and obviously we want the cost to be zero in an ideal world, but sometimes you get what you pay for. But to me, it's having a really honest assessment. It's like, if we spend that dollar, do we get $5 in return, or do I get X hours back where I can go and earn those $5? But as far as Steelhead, we do cater to fairly small shops. We do. I think in the future will make it like completely self-serve, so where it's like you mentioned Trello. Well, Trello's a very generic software. You could run an ice cream shop on it. You could bake cakes with it, and you can also run some powder coating on it as well. We've seen that as well, and it's very low cost, and you just go on and use it. But our approach has been to build systems in a very custom, in a very deep way for the cohesive business, and that drives a lot of time and expense on our side with professional services. But certainly down the road, it's certainly something that we've considered is making the software just kind of available for DIY at a lower cost, with obviously less service and things of that nature. But currently, we're focusing with the more intensive business-wide deployments, and really focusing on those that have a lot of pain, and have some scale that they're working on, and have some growth plans, and really putting in that robust digital infrastructure. But we do try to get as low as we can as far as cost and size of shops that we're able to accommodate, and while still providing a great service, right? As I was mentioning about the economics, right? If we if we undercharge, we don't charge enough, and we can't pay employees,
Right.
all of a sudden we're gone and we're back where we started, where powder coating doesn't have a great technology solution. So yeah, that's something that we pay a lot of attention to. And one thing that's exciting about powder coating is you start working with a shop when they're at 10, and before you know it, they're at 30. Like our second customer started with, I think, 6, and now they're at 23 or something like that, and like
Yeah.
a year. So it can be really exciting. So even if you are 6 people, if you have growth plans, the infrastructure's, you need to build
You
the
need
foundation
you
before the
need
house.
it.
So
Yeah.
you can't necessarily, you can wait, but it's a much more painful route versus making an investment up front in a scalable system.
Yeah, and I can appreciate what you just said too. And anybody considering something like Steelhead or other softwares
Mhm.
that are out there, it's like you it's better to start sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because the longer you wait, the digitizing, the data entry and everything gets just even more complicated. But I think you said that really well. It's more than just time and your own, it's anybody that I've seen use technology like this, they're growing, they're exponentially growing.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with what the steps that they've taken to get themselves in a situation like with Steelhead.
Mhm.
So I can appreciate that. And I thank you again. Now, where can we find you? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook?
I think we are on Instagram and Facebook. Chantal, our head of marketing, runs our socials. But our website is probably the best place to start if
Oh,
you're
yeah. Let me
interested.
put that up. Mm-hmm.
It's gosteelhead.com. Steelhead like the fish, so go, and then steelhead, STEELHEAD, gosteelhead.com. We have a lot of videos. We have a lot of pages about all the different functionalities, quoting, workflows, reporting, shipping, receiving, you name it, all the core functions of an entire powder coating business. We really try to have an educational website where you can spend a good half hour watching videos, digging around the website, and really educate yourself and say, hey, is this something that's useful for us? Is this something that would help us? And then, of course, we have the option to book a meeting right there. It links right to our calendars, and you can jump on a short half-hour call. And those calls are usually very consultative and kind of guarantee you're going to learn something, right? Because you're having a dialogue about where your business is growing, your growth plans. We've been in hundreds of shops, so we're going to be able to ask you really probing questions and questions that are really pertinent to your shop. Make suggestions, give you guidance on expected investment, on timeline, on outcomes. And if you're saying, hey, we have these problems, that's what we're here for. We help with those solutions. So regardless of whether or not you choose Steelhead, we're always happy to have those conversations because it's about solving your problems and growing your business. So yeah, if
That's awesome.
you go online and you like what you see, you're excited about putting in some systems, go ahead and book a meeting, and we'll it all starts there. So yeah, I look forward to talking with everyone.
That's awesome, Jeff. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show today. I'm always liking new products, new stuff, and it's nice to have a conversation around it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just a salesy talk kind
Yep,
of thing, because we're just addressing some of the problems that are in the industry and that we have to suffer through every day, and that maybe we don't need to suffer any longer. That there's
absolutely.
a company out there that has a solution for what they need. So I appreciate you very much for coming on today.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim, and thank you for everything that you do with the podcast. We all really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, have a great day. Get out there, get some estimates, make some money, and we'll see you next time. Aloha.
See you later. Aloha.